All right, in the previous video, we introduced the West unit and we kind of put together two views of the West, one of the American Dream West, the myth of the West, and one of the a little more real, sober view of the West. All right, and today we're going to talk about one of the main drivers of people out to the West, and that was mining, and picking up on that theme of get rich quick, American dream. And a lot of people move to the West in hopes of striking it rich, right? But a lot of it, you hear the stories of people going out and striking it rich, and you want to move there yourself. But a lot of people who move West in that kind of hope did not strike it rich. Not very few people did. And in fact, the people who did make their money off of mining were often the landowners and the wealthy mining industry, like the big business miners. Okay. And that kind of contrasts with that view of anyone can make it, to really you can go out there and you can work, but you're working low wage jobs in unsafe conditions. And it's someone else is making your money, kind of thing. Okay, so it's the same story as industrialization in the East, of mining in the West. Okay, nevertheless, the major presence of mining in the West has left us with a few side effects. So we're going to look at that today. The major effects of mining in the West. All right. One of the major effects of mining in the West is the creation of what we know as boom towns. All right. Boom towns are towns that show up off of one industry, and boom towns still exist. You're rarely driven by mining anymore. We're not suddenly discovering gold, but sometimes it's oil. And a lot of people especially in states like Texas and Oklahoma are centered around like oiling industries and oil towns. And even in the places like the Rust Belt, it was centered around one major industry. One factory gets built, a town gets built around that factory. When that factory shuts its doors, that town goes bust. And it's a very similar story that you see throughout the West, especially when it comes to mining. And although mining boom towns are a little different than the modern day boom towns, but when you have a massive population increase in a month, you don't have the infrastructure to take care of all those people. And you don't have the police force to take care of all those people. And so you get this thing like, oh, it's the Wild West, right? Because there's a lot of, gunslingers running around. And like the actual shootouts are rare. The big ones, like the shootout to OK Corral, we're talking about a handful of people and a flurry of gunfire, and then it's over, kind of thing. Nevertheless, wonderful movies and stories that come from it. Now, vigilance committees are formed where you basically have neighborhood watches, and maybe you have a marshal or a sheriff, but he has to deputize other people, and they have to make sure that there's law and order. And you get the whole phrase frontier justice from that, where there's not really a court system working. It's more the community as a whole. And in this case, very much we are removed from the civilized central government, right, and into a little more lawless territory. But this doesn't last for a very long time, and you get the government reaching out to take kind of order back into place very quickly in these places. And typically, though, you're dealing with working class people, so you have saloons, gambling houses, hotels, and stores spring up around this mining industry. So it's not just mining now. Now you have a whole city and culture being built around that mining industry, right? And so you have the people who kind of make it rich are these small entrepreneurs who go and they open up a hotel and a store, and they are there early, and then the boom happens, and then they're making money off of miners and other low wage workers, right? Okay, but nothing good can last forever. When the mines are exhausted, the town goes bust, and we refer to these as ghost towns. So you'll see places like Virginia City go from 500 people to 30,000 people, back to 300 people. And this is the typical story of boom to bust. And it's that way in mining. The mines are there, boom, bust, mines exhausted. It's that way in farming as well. You get out there, wheat prices are high, you're making money, oversupply, bust. It's that way with cattle and cowboys, boom to bust. It's kind of a central theme here. We're talking about the economics of the West, right? Okay. Major effects, though: populations increase, you get boom towns, you get new states. It's America becoming you know, what it is today on the maps, right? You're going to have economic increase. You're getting more productivity. You're getting more labor. We're using those raw materials in our industrial development. And then you have a new need for railroads. So we're going to increase transportation and we're shipping those raw resources, and you get a smaller world as a result of the railroads. Everything is now becoming more connected. In the same way in the modern world, where the internet has made us more connected and global shipping has made us all more connected. And now our economy is closely tied to the international community. This is also true here of the West. We're just seeing this same kind of story play out over and over again, right? And then it also creates conflicts with the natives, where gold or silver might be discovered on reservation land and then settlers invade that land, or just natives occupying the land before settlers get there, and a boomtown comes up overnight, and now you have a natural conflict in those instances. And in a lot of ways, those are played out on, white racial lines, where you have the so-called civilized Americans, United States citizens, with the natives who are there, and you kind of contrast that modern civilization with the native culture, and you're going to see a clash there, and the continuation of the American Native Wars. And then you have the effect on Hispanics who are already living there, right, who have had years of living on large ranches and occupying that territory, who have been made full citizens of the United States in the end of the Mexican-American War, but who aren't being treated with equality. And now we're back to that egalitarianism idea. Is mining really available? Like, is everyone available to get rich off mining, or is it just the big businesses and white settlers, right? And when we look at the effect of displacement of the Hispanics who had been living there, we see that really egalitarianism in the West is probably not the words we would use with our modern perspective, right? And these new settlers are going to come in and claim land, and because there's no official documents saying, this Hispanic family has lived there for centuries or whatever, they have no legal standing. The courts are going to rule in favor of the white settlers, and so you see this major displacement of the Hispanics, and that kind of negative, just like with the American Indians and the natives, the negative conflict that happens as a result of that. And then finally, you have the environmental effect, where the effects of mining on the environment are largely negative, right? Where you have, there we go. Where you have the use of hydraulic mining, and you're creating a lot of runoff and pollution, right? And this is part of that, like, exploitation and domination. Okay, so we move west to mine raw resources, and it's big business exploiting labor, right? It's white settlers exploiting the court system and displacing Hispanics, okay? And it's centralized government dominating the West, taking land from natives, and then it's American settlers dominating the landscape itself and completely upending it in the name of getting those raw resources. So we have quite a few stories at play when we look at mining in the West, right? Whether or not that American dream is true, and whether or not this is really a place of egalitarianism. But those decisions and conclusions are kind of left up to you, and depends on the perspective you're going to take. That's all for today. Thanks.